Welcome to Talking TSM, the Gamehouse's talk show about TSM's LCS team. I am your host and your guide into the world of TSM's LCS team. And we have our first week of action coming up in, since September? Has it been since September? 3-ish months? Like almost 100 days since our last bit of TSM games. Games of real value, right? No. Sadly, we have the lock-in tournament, which is not the sad part. The sad part is that, in case if you missed it, maybe you're living under a rock, but the main team is not going to be playing this week, which is a bit of a bummer, a bit of a downer, and a very interesting choice by the TSM coaching staff, in my opinion. And it just shows just how little this tournament really means to most organizations as they work through visa and COVID issues. I expect that we'll see, a couple other teams like C9 specifically will have some subs in which, if Berserker can't play, they're just going to play Sven, which is like, how much of a downgrade really is that? I know eventually Berserker should be and probably will be better than Sven for all those out there who are upset about that, but I don't know. It's an interesting decision, but regardless, we're gonna hop right into it, guys. Because this is our second episode of 2022, and at least we have LCS, LEC, LPL. I believe began this morning. The LCK is starting here soon too. So League of Legends action, true League of Legends action, is back for the next couple months. So let's dive into it here with the LCS. Lock in groups here to start with. So, they did a draft where, 100 Thieves and TL picked the teams. I did not do it based on the draft order, although I cannot remember. I believe Evil Geniuses were sent into Group B by 100 Thieves, and then Cloud9, and then I want to say maybe it was Immortals, then TSM. That's my guess. Regardless, it doesn't really matter necessarily. It's just that Evil Geniuses, TL, and 100 Thieves are the top three teams in most people's opinions. And I think that that's going to be kind of the way it stays. And when you look at these groups, I genuinely believe that one group is exponentially harder than the other one. If you're guessing Group A, I think you're ding, 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 ding. I think that is right on the money. There are 4 teams in my top 6 from Group A in my personal power rankings, which everybody just loved so much on Reddit. Thank you so much for all the kind comments. All you people who thought I was crazy. I will say, if you actually read the disclaimer and if you actually read the piece, and you would see why I picked some of these things for now, that's not going to stay that way. I believe my power rankings will definitely go down, especially with TSM playing their B team, which we will go into here. Well, we'll go into here in a minute. So, Group A, 100 Thieves, Cloud9, FlyQuest, Golden Guardians, and TSM. Again, not necessarily how I think things are going to go. As a reminder, I believe that this is kind of just where, it's in alphabetical order right now. So, don't take that with a grain of salt, although I do think 100 Thieves probably will end up in at the top of Group A. But I think this is a tough group, guys. I'll be honest with you. I think every team in this group has some good and some bad. I think one team in particular has mostly good. So, it's an interesting group. And the way that this works, in case if you didn't know, is each team is going to play each other once. We're going to have games Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then another game. I think for most of the teams, they'll finish everything on Friday of next week. Then what they'll do is they'll do the quarterfinals games. Let me make sure I know I have this right. So, yeah, so they'll do Friday to finish it up. Then they'll do the quarterfinal games on Saturday and Sunday, and then that next week they'll have the semifinals and then the finals. Now, I don't know what this is all going to look like yet, so we're going to, in terms of TSM, I will go into that later, but I at least wanted you guys to know what was happening. So, we will play 100 Thieves, Cloud9, FlyQuest, and Golden Guardians each one time. And then the top 4 teams from the group stages will make it to the knockout stage, where they will play a best of 3. Now, I will say, I wish it was a best of 3 series before the knockout stages, right? Like you played each team in a best of 3. I think that would be really interesting and add a lot. But I think that could kind of help a team like TSM, honestly. But either way, then how it goes is the best team from Group A will play the 4th best team from Group B. Then the 3rd best team from A will play the 2nd best team from B. 2nd from A play the 3rd from Group B, and then the best team from B from Group B will play the 4th seed from Group A, and then it'll just kind of go on, until there is a winner of the lock-in tournament. This is the 2nd year that they're doing this. As a reminder, last year, Team Liquid came out on top. TSM made it, and I want to say, did they lose in quarterfinals? Pretty sure they lost in quarterfinals to Cloud9, if I remember correctly. Let me actually, I'm gonna go check that now because I am curious and I want to remember real quickly what happened last time. So, TSM made it out of the group stage 2-2. They were able to take down CLG and Golden Guardians, from what I can remember here. And then, yes, we lost 2-1 to Cloud9 in the quarterfinals. And then Cloud9 ended up beating 100 Thieves 3-2. TL and EG made it. EG got swept by TL, and then TL won 3-0. Or 3-2 against Cloud9. It was actually that was a pretty good finals, if I remember correctly. So, TL were very, very good at this tournament. Luckily we were in a pretty relatively easy group. We had Golden Guardians again and CLG. But it's funny, actually, really, TSM, Golden Guardians, and 100 Thieves. 3 of the 5 teams from last time are playing against each other. This time we get FlyQuest and Cloud9. But, this is I think it's a good tournament to, when I think about this tournament, I think about the fact that this is a good warm-up. This is like a preseason way for fans to really enjoy something, kind of just at least get a glimpse of their team most of the time, right? And then they are able to kind of come together and learn how to play with play against each other with relatively low stakes, right? Like, I think the winner of these tournaments wins like 10 or 20K each, which, is obviously a lot of money to most normal people, but these are professional athletes. So I'm not saying that, they don't love a 10 or 20K bonus on this beginning of the year, but for a lot of teams, their goals and their sights are set for higher, right? For MSIs and Worlds and LCS championships. I don't think most of the teams take this tournament all that seriously outside of an opportunity to learn the new meta and everything like that. And I do like the idea of that. I think that I think it's smart. I do think that it's a beneficial tournament. But as I'm going to show you guys as a reminder here real quickly, like it was already announced, TSM's Academy team is who's going to be playing for us, or who are going to be playing for us. And I don't know, man. Like, this is such a disappointment to me. I understand, the visa issues and all that other stuff, but it's like, and I guess they want to give the whole team a chance if they're, going to do it. But it's like, you could have easily had Huni Spica take over Tactical and Yurson. And, maybe they just don't want to mess up the cohesion. Maybe they're going to use, these weeks to kind of ruin Kaido's and Shenyi's sleep schedules and have them, be practicing, or maybe it's the other way around for Spica and Huni and Tactical. And maybe they're going to use these next, basically 3 weeks. We're still not going to see this team for basically a month. And who even knows if they're going to be ready now in February, right? Come February. I think that's, again, we talked about this with the TSM Academy team, with Takeover and Yurson being on the team already. At least they can sub in if necessary. The one thing that I will say about this whole situation is, to me, it feels as though TSM must be very confident that they're going to have their full team here, because either that or they really just do not care about the spring split, because I think otherwise they would play Huni, Spica, Takeover, Tactical, and Yurson, because that would be the starting lineup come week 1 in February, right? So, I am of the opinion that this isn't the worst thing in the world. I believe that basically, all of these teams, right, are they're using this time to get ready. And I think if TSM wants to spend another month, scrimming and getting these players ready for the regular season instead of this lock-in tournament when they can't even have everybody here to play, that's fine with me. I really do not mind it. Is it disappointing? Sure. But I'm excited to see some of these academy players too, and we'll go into that, here shortly. But I don't want to lose focus of the fact that for TSM fans, like, just go watch the lock-in, go support these academy players. Like, as, in case if you didn't know, Viper, Hyper, and Instinct are the other 3 players on the team. I talked about Takeover and Yurson already, but and if you want to get my full thoughts on this academy roster, go back, I think it's maybe 2-3 episodes ago, where I want to say it's episode 73, where I went over, the academy team, my thoughts on them. And there's a lot of question marks around pretty much this whole squad. And there are specific players, 2, 3 in particular, that I really am intrigued to watch. And I'm still going to be watching these games the same way that I would if the main squad was playing, right? Because these players could play theoretically. Should something happen to any of our players in terms of visa issues or maybe a COVID protocol or anything like that, like, all 5 of these players could step in and play. And I do think that we're also going to get a little taste of our team strategy heading forward, right? The aggressiveness that I do believe is coming. I think it's going to start with this academy team. Now, for those of you who don't know, the academy team was okay last year. Last summer they had, as a reminder, they had Hansert and Cody-san, and Takeover was still splitting some time with Sword. But this team finished 17-19 in terms of games in their series. They finished 4-9-5. So they were not great. They ended up making it to the whatever that new playoff system is, and they. I don't know necessarily that Instinct and Viper are going to be better than Hanser and Cody Sun out right away, especially in the top lane. But we'll get to see them, and that's what matters. So let's we sorry guys, I'm really struggling here because it's such. I am really disappointed. Like I was really looking forward to this episode for literally like the last 2 months. I've been like, okay, like we're gonna get to talk about the main team. I'm gonna get to really dive deep into this team for you guys. And then when they announced the academy team, it was just a huge letdown. I know for all of us. And again, I 100% understand it. I think it's a responsible, good decision from them to a certain degree. And I'm trying to look at it with as much hopium as I can in discussing the fact that I do believe they really think that the roster is going to be ready to go come the 4th, because otherwise I do think that they would get action for the 3 players that I know are here in North America. I know that Huni and Spica and Tactical are here, or at least I'm 99% sure on Spica and Tactical, and I'm pretty sure on Huni, although they may have just let him stay over there to spend time with family since they decided that they weren't playing in this game. So, and this in games that don't matter, this happens. Like the NFL just had this yesterday, with a lot of teams where, for those of you who don't know, the football playoffs are coming up this next weekend, same time as the lock-in schedule, which is unfortunate, but whatever. And these games, right? Like some of them didn't matter for some of these teams. So to keep their players healthy and everything like that, they sat them for the week. And that's a very common occurrence in preseason games too, right? Like in most traditional sports, whether it's spring training for baseball, whether it's NBA preseason, whether it's NFL preseason, I don't know if hockey or soccer, I'm pretty sure soccer and hockey both have preseasons, but I cannot say for certain I know how they work, at least here in the United States. But, for MLB, NBA, and NFL, the ones I do know, a lot of the time, like in preseason stuff, they use that time to, even evaluate younger talent. And I think, there's an opportunity here for TSM to do that. So we'll dive a lot deeper into what my expectations are for the team, but I at least wanted to go over the lock-in tournament and kind of maybe the rationale behind their decision making. So it is unfortunate, but hey, we still get games. So here's our schedule for the upcoming week. And you can check it out on thegamehouse.com. By the way, I have uploaded the schedules for every single LCS team. I will update them once the regular season schedules are known. I imagine we'll get that maybe later this week or next week. Once they finalized a couple things, I'm sure they're still trying to figure a couple things out. Figure out, I don't know. I guess just the way that they want to make the puzzle pieces fit, but doesn't matter. Lock-in schedule for us. TSM gets 2 games on Friday, including the very first game of the 2022 season at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, also known as 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time versus 100 Thieves. Now, I will say I'm a little surprised that they decided to start this early. I don't really get it. I guess that maybe they're really trying to help the East Coast people because we'll actually be done by like 9:30, which is a super reasonable time. Like I remember last season falling asleep at 11:30, 12, watching whatever terrible game was at the very end of the night. I also think that they're trying to. I should say this. I do know why. I remember now. Sorry guys. They are trying to run up against the LEC schedule, I think, as much as possible. I think they want to try to keep as much viewership from that as they can, because a lot of people do watch the LEC and then they used to go straight into the LCS games, especially when the LCS games took 8 hours or whatever in a day, right? I mean, it was a really long day, I remember, back in the day. And it'll be interesting too to see what they do in terms of content creation for all of this, because Mark Z already announced that he's only going to be on 1 day a week for I think the whole year, or at least the spring split. They're apparently minimizing the analyst desk, and I think they're minimizing the staff, and they're going to probably bring in some new pieces as well, because also Kaizen is gone. So, yeah, I'm wondering if Jat's coming back. TSM Jat would be cool. But, again, this is mostly about the schedule here. I'll go into the matchups individually here in a minute, too. But game 2, then, we play again on Friday. Basically, Group A plays most of the teams, I think, if not all of them, play 2 games on Friday. And then Group B is 2 games on Saturday. Then each team have a game Monday or Sunday. Some teams have 2 games Sunday. And then whoever hasn't finished their 4th game, which will be us as well, will get a game on Friday. Or on Friday the 21st. So after we play 5:30, we get a game break, and then we get right back into the action against FlyQuest. So we're going to get 2 games on Friday. That's a good thing right there. 2 TSM games on Friday. If you don't think I'm going to be locked in watching these games, you're crazy, and you all should too. And that was no pun on the lock-in tournament. I really actually just said that on accident. But then we play Game 3 Sunday, January 16th, 5:30 again. They're running right into the freaking NFL schedule, but whatever. We'll be. I know they don't care as much, but for those of us who do watch the NFL, it's unfortunate. Then we play C9, which will be interesting to see who all they have available this coming weekend as well. I don't think they've announced who's here or who's not yet. There's a possibility that Summit, Berserker, and Winsome are just not available, so they run back a lot of what they had last year. I think that would be Darshan, Blabber, Fudge, Sven, and Isles maybe. That could end up being their team, which isn't a terrible team, but it'd be cool to see Darshan on stage, I guess. But yeah, so that's it for the first weekend of action. We get 3 games still. It's just 2 on Friday, none on Saturday, then 1 on the Sunday, and then that following Friday on the 21st, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard versus Golden Guardians, one of the last games of the lock-in tournament. And it could be a very important one for this team because, generally speaking, one win gets you at least a tiebreaker in these scenarios. So, yeah, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, break down my thoughts on each individual game that we're playing this weekend specifically because, I got to save some content for next weekend. Like, come on, guys. Even though we only play 1 game next week, potentially, hopefully more. Hopefully we get a best of 3. We'll have a pretty good idea come Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. But these games are going to be just tough. I'm going to be honest with you. 100 Thieves to start this season is they are the LCS champions. It would have already been a tough game for the 5 main players 5 main players on the main team, but for our academy team, this is going to be tough. I mean, I would expect, since it's the first game of the year, they're going to probably run out someday instead of Tenacity. I don't know. They could also just run Tenacity since we are an academy team instead. But we don't really know how they're going to split time yet. So for me with TSM, right, I think that they're going to have to bring out something that 100 Thieves just doesn't expect. And they're just going to have to go all out, right? There's no reason to be passive and just let a team that is as talented as 100 Thieves beat you all across the map. If I have my keys to the game in particular for that game, it's going to be play through Takeover. I think he is probably the most LCS ready of the young players, not Viper, including, who can go toe-to-toe maybe with Abadage to a certain degree, right? I don't think I think Takeover would be probably one of the 2 worst mid laners right now, but we get a chance to see him in a more conducive atmosphere in terms of allowing him to test his skills, right? Against, I would argue, a top 3 mid laner. And at least. Probably top 2 to start the season at least. And, it's going to be really interesting to see how Viper specifically can handle whoever's up in the top lane. He is the only one on this team with any LCS experience at all, with any real pro experience either. Takeover played down in the Latin American leagues, but I'm sorry, like that's basically academy to a certain degree in terms of talent. So, this is going to be a very valuable learning experience for all of these players and for Gunaso, because I would assume that he's going to be running the entire coaching staff and running draft and everything too. I'm sure it wouldn't surprise me to see Peter, helping out with the draft maybe. Obviously, we are not going to be able to see that since it is online. That's the other major part of this too. Because of COVID, sadly, the lock-in is not going to be getting played at the LA studios. Unfortunately, it's going to be played at home, which we have this beautiful freaking place and we just haven't been able to use it yet, which is also a huge disappointment, especially since they've redone everything for the LCS. But it feels like 100 Thieves, they're going to need to play through Takeover, and I think that Hyper is going to have to get creative with his ganks, finding random opportunities. And I don't mean random in terms of just completely, like happens to find somebody in their jungle, happens to find Closer or something in their jungle. Like, I mean, like random as in he's going to maybe need to create some new paths or, or take more risky, ganks to try and get some of the laners ahead. I'm not confident in this one. I at all, really. I think while I'm excited for Instinct, and I think Instinct's going to be very good in the future, I think Instinct and Yurson are going to get smashed very early on. It would not surprise me at 10 minutes if, I don't know, if Instinct's down by 10, 15 CS maybe at that point, maybe even gotten killed already. I think, like I said, I think the 2 solo laners can at least hold their own, but between Closer and FBI, I think that this game is kind of a wash, unfortunately. I would love to see them come out, and bring something, like, if you want to win these kinds of games, the one great part about this is it's not a best of 3. While I would love to see a best of 3 with our full team and their full team, because I think it would benefit our team, but for the Academy squad, having a best of 1 is great, because that's where you can bring out these surprise picks, right? That's where you can try to find the win by just, I don't know, getting lucky to a certain degree, right? You pick something that was totally unexpected, it dominates the game, and you win, and you can have those, those picks, because it allows your team to, I don't know, to take them by surprise, right? And you can't do that in a best of 3, because it's like, oh, okay, well, we lost game 1, we can prep for it in games 2 and 3, right? This is where the best of 1 format's going to benefit the Academy squad throughout the entire lock-in tournament. In terms of, they're not going to have a whole lot of advantages, guys. I'm just going to be straight up honest with you. If you're coming here because you want me to say, rah, 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 TSM's going to win for sure because they're TSM, then, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just very unlikely, especially in this game. So, come out swinging, try to play through Takeover, hope that Hyper can find some extra goodies, right? And come out with a draft strategy that's going to take them by surprise. And if you can win in the draft, that at least gives you a chance. If you try to play them just straight up with normal comps, normal picks, normal gameplay, they are going to beat you probably 99 times out of 100. So I really encourage the TSM coaching staff to really think outside the box here and try to come up with a strategy that's going to take 100 Thieves by surprise. Now, the good thing is they're going to learn a lot from that game, regardless of if they get crushed in 20 minutes or if they're able to take it the distance and win. I am predicting them to lose that game, by the way. So we're starting off 0-1, unfortunately. But we head into game 2, right? And game 2, I think, is going to be honestly our best chance at a victory between all 4 games right here. FlyQuest. Now, I have talked up FlyQuest. I do think that they have good pieces on their team. I am somebody who does support them and who thinks that this team has the opportunity to get better. That being said, Kumo, Jose Dioto, and Johnson were all playing in Academy at some point during the summer. They are 100% beatable. I believe, let me check this to make sure. Oh, goodness, where is this? Okay. Yeah, we are their first game of the year, okay? And this is our opportunity. This is where, we have a chance because Takui is still new. Afremu is going to be getting used to playing with Johnson again, although I think that's where their advantage is. Kumo and Viper have been going back and forth for years now, whether it's an LCS or an Academy. That's going to be probably the most even matchup that Viper's going to get all weekend long. And then, for TakeOver, again, I think him and Takui are going to be similar. I think Hyper is not as good as Jose Dioto, but Jose Dioto struggled last year. I think if they can penalize his over-aggressive mistakes, I think there's a chance in this game, for real. I think for TSM, it's going to be making sure that Johnson doesn't get ahead. Now, a lot of people have been calling me crazy. Oh, Johnson's bad. Like, what are you talking about? He's not as good. Listen, I went back and looked. When Johnson was with Afremu, he was a much different player. He was a lot better. And Afremu kind of just makes all of his AD carries better. He's not core JJ in terms of being able to make them better and make the whole team better. Afremu, though, yeah, generally he can make the team better at times, but he truly just has this style of play, and I think maybe this mentality that allows for his AD carries to become the best versions of themselves. We've seen it with Johnson. We've seen it with Neo. We've seen it with Cody's son. We've seen it even with Double F to a certain degree, right? Like, that's just what he does. He's a very, he's like a companion. And he just works really well with whoever his AD carry is. And for TSM, I think that's where you have to try and just keep it even. If Instinct and Yurson can just stay even with the bot lane, I think TSM have a very good chance of winning this game. Because, listen, I do think that TSM are going to be one of the best Academy teams in the Academy system. And I think that FlyQuest are going to be one of the worst teams in the LCS, which means they should be within a couple spots of each other in terms of like a full-on power ranking, okay? And to me, that means that TSM has to be planning as like, okay, we're going to take our lumps, learn what we can in 100 Thieves. If we want a chance to really make it to this knockout stage, FlyQuest is where it's at. And I really want to see them attack Takui too. I like Takui. He did an interview with with us recently at TGH, and he and Jose Dioto, they're great people, and I wish them all the best this season. But for TSM Academy team, man, this is the opportunity right here. Hyper and TakeOver have synergy. They have played together. TakeOver has officially been named, the main mid laner. Sword is a support now over on 100 Thieves Academy. I think he got moved up to Academy because Busio is doing school stuff. So, I think that's where their advantage is. I think Viper and Kumo go even. I think the bot lane needs to find a way to be even, but I think they need to let TakeOver unironically take over this game, and I think Hyper needs to absolutely play through him as much as they possibly can. Takui plays a lot of, control mages, and that's great, but guess what? It's not really much of a control mage meta right now, from what I've seen at least. So if that's the case, then that means that all the assassins and the melee champions that TakeOver is very good on should have advantages, especially if he can push in and move around the map, right? Or let Takui push in and Hyper, comes in and ganks, and then they get take over ahead and they just let him really like control the game. If TSM, our academy specifically, but TSM for this week and hopefully the next couple weeks, if they're going to win a game, this has to be it. And this would be quite a statement game as well for all of these players. Like, the one thing you have to understand is this is such an opportunity for all 5 players to show, hey, I have what it takes to be in the LCS. Most academy players are not going to get a chance like this year. Probably at all. Well, actually none, basically. There's only a couple of teams that are going to have a couple of their academy teams. Or players, excuse me. This is the only squad, at least as of right now, that's going to have a full-on academy team playing. If they want to show, hey, I'm LCS ready or I'm really close to being LCS ready, and, they want to either push TSM to make a choice next year or, allow a team to try to trade or sign for them or, buy them out, this is a great showcase to do it. And against a FlyQuest team that's, not going to have had a bunch of time necessarily to come together yet, they're still learning how to play with each other. There are some players on there that, we still have a lot of question marks about. This is where you strike, guys. I am going to predict a TSM win here, only because of the fact that I believe that Viper and Kumo can at least go even. And I really do think that Hyper and Takeover are going to really be able to take over. I hate having to. I need to find something else for Takeover, but are really going to be able to win this game for TSM. They have that synergy that the rest of these teams, the rest of this team does not have yet. And I think Instinct is good enough to at least go toe to toe with Johnson for at least one game, right? In a whole season, I don't know. But, again, Johnson played Academy. He wasn't great necessarily last year. I do think Afromoon makes him a lot better, but they're going to have to relearn some of these, synergistic parts of their duo lane. And, same thing for Instinct and Yurson, but whatever. Like, all I'm asking them to do is go even. I'm not expecting them to win the lane. And if I'm Gunason, I'm drafting, man, I'm making sure that Takeover has last pick. I mean, that is probably key number 1. If at all, you give Takeover counter pick. Just have to do it, in my opinion. Now, we'll see how the draft goes. I've not watched the LPL yet this morning. I am going to definitely be taking a look over there, to see kind of how they drafted. And I'll be, trying. I probably won't watch any LPL or LCK games. I might watch some highlights and just kind of get a look at what the drafts are looking like right now. I assume beginning of the year, most things are going to be relatively standard. Like, I'm sure we'll see, Renekton's and, I don't know, Azir's or whatever. Although I did hear that Corki might be back in the meta. So, and I don't think Azir is in the meta, so that would be great. Corki, yes. Azir, no. At least we don't have to have those two battling it out in a CS farm, farming simulator for an entire game. But I think this is the chance right here for TSM. If this Academy team is going to strike, this is going to have to be it. Now, on Sunday, they will have a chance, I think, against Cloud9. Mainly because there's so much turmoil over there. I do think, I'm not going to just sit here and crap on LS because I do think that he's a very intelligent individual, and I think I said this last week too, I trust that he will be able to come up with drafts that will work for his team. I just don't know about the team itself. There are question marks surrounding it, and I just don't even know who's going to play next week. They haven't announced it like TSM has. So, at least to my knowledge. So, normally, again, their lineup's normally going to be Summit, Blabber, Fudge, Berserker, and probably, I'm going to say Isles, but we'll see. It could be Winsome, right? And if they are having problems with visas and COVID and everything, and Summit doesn't play, we get Darshan up in the top lane. Fudge, I think, is still good. I think he's here in the U.S., so I think he and Blabber are fine. If Berserker doesn't play, I'm pretty confident they're going to let Sven play, which that he's going to just be out to just crush everybody and everything. Then I'm pretty sure Isles is here in the U.S. too, but Winsome they brought from South Korea, and Isles they're bringing from Australia. So there is the chance, right, that both of those players were home for the holidays and are struggling to get their way back in. That's a very real possibility, especially with the way that Australia is doing things. I believe that Isles is Australian and not. Yeah, he is Australian. Okay, good. I wanted to. They lump in New Zealand and Australia sometimes. So I'm even LS coming over. I would have to think that he's over here by now. I know he's obviously he's dual citizen, or I think he's dual citizen. I know he's at least a citizen of the U.S. and apparently so is Winsome, which is still the more interesting part of this find for them. Man, if that kid ends up being good, that's going to be interesting. But I don't know what this team is going to look like yet, and I think we'll have an idea of that by Friday. They play the second game against Golden Guardians, and then the last game of the day against FlyQuest. I have to think that we'll see who's playing then. There's even a chance that King comes in and Copy maybe. Maybe they just try to give some time to everybody, and maybe against us, they decide to play some Academy players. I think the keys to this game for TSM Academy are going to be just play your game. It doesn't matter who's across from you at this point. They could throw out a bunch of different people. Just play your game, and yet again, it's going to be playing through Takeover here, I think, if they want to have a chance. Because, listen, Instinct is super young. I think, especially if he's playing Sven, then I think... Listen, I think Berserker's going to be much better than Sven probably in his career. But I think as of right now, more than likely Sven is better. I mean, Sven came in and was just God tier last year at the end of the season. I mean, he was really carrying once he came back after the whole King experiment. I think that Sven's a very good player. I have a lot of respect for him, and I think that what C9's doing is interesting. Again, very excited for Berserker. Just feel like Sven's getting kind of screwed over here. At least he's getting to play, right? Regardless, I think if Instinct has to go up against Sven, I'm very scared of that matchup. I think Sven, it doesn't matter which support's going to be there. I think he'll find a way to play well. But, with Fudge in the mid lane for his first couple games as a mid laner officially, right? Takeover's been playing mid lane longer than Fudge has. That's just a fact. I mean, he knows matchups better. He's going to understand the lane better. I don't care how good Fudge is or is probably going to be, because Fudge will most likely succeed in this role. I think mid's going to be a very good role for him. But learning, the different pushes and you can't do all of the things that you need to transition to a new role and be amazing at it generally in 2 months. Unless you've been working on this since they finished up at Worlds, which they went further than anybody else. So, it's not like he's had as much time as you would think. And I'm sure he took some time off too. And I'm sure they didn't make this roster decision until probably mid-October when they announced everything. So, yeah, I just think that Takeover will probably be better than Fudge for right now. Or at least as good as him. I'd have to hope so. This guy's been playing mid lane for 4 years in terms of at a professional or semi-professional level. You would think that he should know some of these matchups better. Now, if Fudge is a mechanical god, I do think he understands team fighting better. I'm just talking about laning specifically. I would hope that Takeover would be able to bring out a matchup that would really confuse Fudge and be one that he probably hasn't played into before, and that would give him an advantage. Plain and simple, that's where I see that. Blabber's obviously better than Hyper. That's not even a question. Darshan and Viper have been going at it in Academy. I think, weirdly enough, I think them picking Viper, at least for this tournament, is going to give them at least a net neutral in in 2 of the 4 of these games. I think it's the C9 game and it's the FlyQuest game. And now, that being said, obviously, if Summit's here and able to play, then I think Summit probably just rolls over him, and then we're going to really need a hard carry performance at a Takeover. But, I mean, this is another one where we get an advantage of it being a best of one, and we just hope and pray that some of these players don't play, because I just don't see a world where our team is able to play against, a starting roster of Summit, Blabber, Fudge, Berserker, and Winsome or Isles. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. So I'm predicting a loss on this one, because I think that they will have at least some of these players available. I'm going to be excited to see what this C9 roster brings together. But hey, there's a chance that because they haven't played together, because they're playing in new roles, because they're frustrated with maybe draft or just the way things have been going on this team, that we sneak out a win here. I will say, and again, people aren't going to like this, I think of the 4 games that we play, I think this one has the second best chance of being a win, just because of the fact that, it's still going to be week 1. C9 will have had, I think, 1 game up to this point. No, they will have played 2 games. So they will have played 2 games as well and learned, but they will have only had a weekend to learn and come together more. Again, I think it's a loss, but there's a better chance than against 100 Thieves, where 99 out of 100 times we're losing to 100 Thieves. I would say we have maybe a 70-30 chance, or a 30-70 chance, where 30% of the time maybe we can pull this one out. But yeah, that's all I can see for that one. So, and then obviously we'll have the Golden Guardians game the next Friday. We'll have a full week to have learned from whatever went wrong, and if we want to try to salvage the entire lock-in tournament with a win there, that would be great. So that's kind of my thoughts on those 3 games to start us off in the lock-in. I had a lot more planned for the main team, but kind of scrambled this week. It was a pretty busy week this week, so I didn't spend as much time looking into these games, because honestly, I mean, it's just the reality is, and we'll go into segment 3 here. My expectations for this team are pretty low, honestly. I'm really sad that we're missing out on this main team. I really am. I was really looking forward to League of Legends this week. Now we got to wait another 3 weeks before we get to actually see the main team. Realistically, I think it's even 4. So, whatever. I'm glad that we're getting to play, but I'm very, very sad that we're missing the main team. I really wanted to see Kaido and Shenyi play. Like, I just wanted to see what they could bring to the table. I think this tournament would have been very good for them to figure some things out instead of having to just drop right into the regular season. But I understand what's going on, so I'm not going to dive into that anymore. I am going to mostly, with this lock-in tournament, I'm going to watch for certain players. Like, I want to see what Instinct is able to do. If this kid's going to be the next potential Danny or Tactical even, or whoever, right? I mean, this kid was like a 15-year-old stud a couple years ago that a lot of people wanted to pick up, and even last year, he was, I think, pretty solid on 100 Thieves Next. So, I am fully confident that this kid is got a lot of potential still. I saw some stuff on Reddit that people were like, I don't know, I don't think he's going to be very good. Like, I disagree. I really do think that there's a good chance that this kid could be something special. Right, and so this could be his coming out party where we're like, oh my, this guy's a stud, and Takeover too, right? I mean, if it's gonna make me and probably a lot of TSM fans feel a lot better if Takeover looks good, then that just means that Kaido, at least we have a backup in case Kaido doesn't work out, right? Like, let's say that these rumors, or not even rumors, but somebody telling me that, hey, like, I've been hearing that Kaido hasn't been looking great during practice, which I think would be really tough to fully evaluate right now. But, either way, let's say that, he really does end up struggling, right? Should that be the case, then at least we have Takeover, right? And I think that's kind of the mindset that they have right now. And I really do expect him, of all the players, to be the one who is coming out and playing his A game, because this is his chance. If for no other reason, if any of these bottom teams struggle at the mid lane position, I think Palafox, sadly, mostly, is going to be looked at in that way, then they could easily just swipe Takeover and have him play. I think he's almost at that level, and he had a good season last year. So, this is going to be his first full season as the starter, but this is his chance really to kind of show, like, hey guys, here's where I am, here's what I can do. I also think Individually for Viper, listen, man, this guy's probably a backup for good. I would have to think at best. But, if he wants a chance, like a serious chance again, and Hooney starts, doing his thing where he's inting, right? And TSM are worried about Hooney's abilities, then Viper needs to be able to come in and play well. So let's see it, right? Hyper is another one that I just don't really think is all that great. Honestly, I think there are some other younger junglers out there that I would love to have had, but I think they're keeping him because he does allow for takeover to succeed. So maybe that's his whole role. But he's obviously never taking Spica's spot, at least this year. We'll see what happens next year. But this is a chance for him to to maybe show some stuff. Really at least get his name on the market should TSM make some moves this summer. One move I wouldn't be surprised to see them make is if Will comes back, from finishing up school this year. I think that he's very, very good, and he's going to be a free agent this summer, and I fully expect that TSM are going to try to sign him. Just letting you guys know now. Would not surprise me in the slightest if they try to get him on there, because Will's probably one of the next really great up-and-coming junglers. He's got a lot of talent. He's pretty raw still, but should Spica leave, then he'd be a pretty easy choice to want to try to bring up should they not be able to get somebody like Kenvi. So, yeah. Continuing on, Yurson is the last one that I'm going to talk about here, but I think he's a lot better than I thought he was going to be last year, and if he can go seriously toe to toe with some of these supports, then he's going to be another person that's going to be getting a lot of looks, right? We've talked about it. The support position in the LCS is not exactly great. I can tell you right now, the bottom 3-4 teams probably there's a chance they will take a very serious look at somebody like a Yurson should he be able to perform, especially if they have a position available in terms of an international slot. So that's what I'm watching for. I want to see these guys individually play well. If they come together and they play well, great. That means that they will probably win a game or two, which would be awesome. If they all struggle, then I'm a little worried if I'm TSM. Your academy team is, yes, it is for 100% for development. That's exactly what I see it as. But you still want to be able to see these developmental players be able to at least handle what the LCS can, because otherwise that means that they're very, very far behind. And they're going to need a lot more time, right, to be sitting there in the pot, in the crock pot, kind of just getting themselves figured out. So, yeah. My third bullet point here is this is a tough group, guys. I'm just going to be honest. I think the LCS is just getting better in general. I think this would have been a tough group even for the main team. I still would have fully expected them to make it out of this group. I think they could have easily gone 2-2 or even 3-1 in this group. But, with this being the academy team, I really, really wish we would have been in the other group, or at least been playing some of the other teams in the other group, because, listen, I think this academy team could easily go toe-to-toe with Dignitas. I think they could go toe-to-toe with CLG, and I think they can go toe-to-toe with FlyQuest. So, it's just about kind of, they're gonna have to punch up their weight, right? Up their weight class. They're just gonna have to see what they can do against the big boys. And I fully expect by the end of this season, 100 Thieves and Cloud9 to be there at the end, pushing for a world spot. I think Golden Guardians could surprise some people. They do have question marks, and I will go over that next week. There is absolutely a world where this academy team could surprise everybody and beat Golden Guardians. I don't find it likely, but this is a tough group, guys. And I think, for my last point here, just making it to the knockout stage would be awesome. I think if there's a way, here's what I'll say. If they win 2 games, they're in. It just doesn't even matter, okay? So if they can pull off a C9 upset or a Golden Guardians upset, or by the most unlikely chance of beating 100 Thieves, then I think that gives them a very good shot. Because, again, I think FlyQuest is the one game where they can maybe win. I would put that one at a 50-50 shot right now. Only because it's a best of one. I don't think overall in a normal season, in a full season, that this Academy team would be able to beat the FlyQuest LCS team. That would be very bad for the LCS if TSM Academy could regularly beat them. But I do think they have a chance there. So, listen, here's the deal. The best case scenario for them is they beat FlyQuest and then every other team beats FlyQuest. That is, if you're looking for a path right now to likely having to face Team Liquid, sadly, in the knockout stage, then that's how you do it. Right there. That is the number one way to do it, is you beat FlyQuest, and then you hope that everybody else beats them too. And if not, well then, sadly, they go 0-4, and then we just chalk it up to see ya in 2 weeks, basically, for the main team. I don't know, guys. This is, it really is just, it is really tough to see this Academy team winning. It just is, and it's no fault of their own. They, I think, have the talent to eventually, but a lot of these players are young. We just don't know enough about Hyper yet. We just don't know even enough about Takeover. Everybody likes Takeover. Everybody liked Sword too. I remember. Man, it was Sword this, Sword that. Oh, Sword's going to be the next great guy. And guess what? He's a support now because he realizes his best chance, by the way, is absolutely support. A good native support. Learning from Huhi, by the way, somebody else who went from mid to support. I'm telling you, Sword has probably upped his chances of making it to the LCS exponentially by just being a native support player. But for Takeover, I think we still just don't know enough about him yet. I think we're going to get to see a lot more of him. And I'm excited about that. And I do want to end this on a positive note. While I do not think that we are favored truly in any of these games, I do think we're going to have a better idea of what we have behind the main team. Who is going to be available to us next year? Who is going to be available to us should one of our players have to go into the COVID protocol, right? Or have to miss a game because of illness, or if visas are still a problem and we have to play Takeover in your son, right? I want to see what they can do. And if they can come out, and I don't think they win any more than 2 games. I think 2 games is the absolute highest ceiling that we can expect for this team. But if they can go and do that, then I'm ecstatic, because that means that when TSM starts scrimming against this Academy team, they are going to push this main team to its limits. And they're going to say, hey, guess what, guys? Basically everybody except for Spica, we're coming for your jobs if you guys do not perform at a high enough level. And I'm telling you right now, TSM does not care. They will absolutely start who's going to give them the best chance to win. I mean, yes, I know they want to develop Kaido and Shinyi. I fully believe that. But I think basically everybody else except for Spica, if that means that they have to send Kaido or Shinyi down to the Academy League and let them develop down there for a split, that can humble you. That can really, drive you to make you better, or it can defeat you. I want to see this team play well. If we go 0-4 but every game is close and they barely lose it, then I consider that a success for this lock-in tournament. If they, by some miracle, really actually get past even the if they get past the freaking quarterfinals, guys, then boy, oh boy, that is crazy to me. That is really hard for me to believe, because then, I mean, this TSM Academy team, should they do very well, which is extremely unlikely, but should they really, really exceed expectations here, then the LCS is going to have to really consider how they look at talent and really consider like what are these teams drafting for and doing. I know it's the beginning of the season. I know this would be really probably truly the only chance that this academy team, at least as of right now, could push some of these other teams. But if a team of Viper, who's been cast out multiple times, Hyper, who's probably maybe a bottom 5 jungler, even an academy, Takeover, who didn't get his chance until TSM just happened to pluck him from, the Latin America leagues. Instinct, a young kid who, I think if this team finds like a way to really succeed, is because this kid shows, hey, guess what? Like, I'm ready now. Which, if I'm tactical, I'm like, oh, that's not great. And then your son, really comes out of his shell and shows, hey, I'm ready. Like, dude, TSM's getting calls all split long, all off season long, in between both the spring and the summer split. And I think the LCS will have to be like, hey guys, like, what are you doing? Why are you going out and picking up somebody like Blue when you could have Takeover, right? I mean, if Dignitas, if Takeover does well and Blue struggles, if Dignitas are not strongly considering calling TSM about a buyout halfway through this split, or at least, copy even, then they're crazy, or they just truly have no money. I don't know. And I mean, for your son too, I mean, there are a lot of imported supports that are not that great. And there are some teams that have import slots left available that could probably use a support. Potentially. We'll see. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, that is best case scenario here, is that we really push the logic of the LCS and say, hey, TSM's really good at evaluating young talent. Because we've done a pretty good job in the past, and I think we are setting these players up for success. So I wish these boys nothing but the best. Please exceed expectations, exceed my expectations. Blow everybody's concepts of Academy out of the water. There's a chance that they could even be the ones that say, hey, maybe the LCS should look at 12 teams this year instead of maybe 2 years in the past or in the future. Just saying, it's this could happen. Right now, official predictions 1 and 2. 1 and 2, and then a hope and a prayer that FlyQuest go 0 and 4. That's our strategy to win right now, guys. to make it to the knockouts. Before we do end, I do want to say I'm likely going to be bringing back 2 episodes a week starting next week. You guys will know more on the Monday episode of next week. This week, for sure, I'm just doing this episode. Right? You guys can tell. Should I do 2 episodes, we will see what the lengths are. They might both be an hour. They may be closer to a half hour. I don't really know yet. I kind of wanted to see how it felt. Again, I think having the main team would have made this a lot easier, honestly, and having a regular schedule. But at least for next week, I would expect 2 episodes. You'll know by, a week from now on Monday's episode. But just make sure you keep an eye out, you keep an ear open, and see what I end up deciding on. I like to live on the edge, guys. We'll see, if which one I'm feeling and which one I think makes the most sense for the show going forward. So, as always, thanks for the support. And, with that, if you like the show, please take a second to like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Make sure you hit that bell icon so you don't miss another episode. Here's my challenge for you guys this week. Leave a comment below. How do you think this team is going to do? What is your record prediction with the TSM Academy team playing in the lock-in? And let me know what your thoughts are on this whole debacle, really, of TSM playing their Academy team instead of their LCS team. Let me know what you guys think of that. I want to continue to make this TSM's, at least the LCS team's, #1 podcast. So please, keep supporting it. Leave a review if you really like this show. It really means a lot to me. Share this with your friends. You can find me at TGH Robert Haynes. Again, that's where I'm going to do most of my updating. You'll see me probably live tweeting a lot of these games and discussing it, especially as the LCS season continues on. You can also follow all of our content at the Gamehouse at TGH Esports on Twitter. Lastly, head to thegamehouse.com. We're going to have a lot of great content coming out. I'm going to be updating the TSM page either this week or next week with our new players, with our new roster, especially as headshots come in. And we're gonna to see what this team can really be. I'll probably come out with a piece. I want to say Thursday, maybe Friday morning, most likely, of what my expectations are for this team. What I'm gonna preview it in a written form as well. So if you didn't get enough of my thoughts on these games, then head over to the Game House. I'll have more there for you. And with that, thanks for tuning in. The show comes out every Monday and possibly Thursday next week. And it's still exclusively for your TSM ear holes. I'm Robert Haynes, and this has been Talking TSM. I'll catch you all next week, and let's go TSM.